Hello. Today, in this session, let us see about nonlinear systems. This is, in fact, part of your fifth and sixth module, and we will. I have divided it into around 11 sessions based on the following topics that are in your syllabus, in fact, and which are relevant to nonlinear systems. So, in this session, the topic is in fact divided as like the introduction to nonlinear system and behavior of nonlinear systems, which I will cover in the first lecture. Okay. So as you all know, like why do we want to learn this nonlinear systems? Till now we have been dealing with continuous linear, continuous time, time invariant systems. We had also seen discrete time systems also. And we learned a lot of models as well as controller design techniques and learned a lot of tools for analysis of linear systems. So now we are going into the nonlinear system. Why is nonlinear systems so important? This is because we all know that whatever system we take, whatever real system we consider, they are all nonlinear in nature. And what we usually see are linearized versions of the nonlinear system that we were dealing till now. Okay. So now, even though, in fact, like whatever control applications that we had used for the linear theory, is good enough for these nonlinear systems because we do a very good approximation from the nonlinear to the linear part. So it works, in fact, well enough. The systems, the controller design techniques for the system works well enough. But in some cases, the linear when we try to linearize the system, it demands more uh, that means we are trying to introduce a lot of quality to the system, and therefore there is that means we are introducing the cost of the components required to make it linear makes this becomes a restriction to dealing alone with linear theory. So we have to move from the linear theory to the non-linear theory to see how things work over there also, and why we had been dealing more with linear theory was that a lot of tools were developed here, and it was strong enough to analyze the linear system theory. For example, we know that if we have an input, sorry, this looks very bad. Um, if I have if I give an input to the system, that is r of t to the system, and this is a plant, and this is an output to the system, and if this is a linear system, we know that all the z transforms, all the Laplace transforms work here well, and then equistability criterions are developed to understand the system. And but in the case of nonlinear systems, we know that the output does not follow directly, like proportionally to the input. So there is not a we cannot plug in all these theory into the nonlinear system. So we need to understand more theory in the nonlinear systems to work with it. So for in your syllabus, what is given is we go into a little bit detailing of the characteristics of nonlinear systems, and we will study different types of nonlinearities which are in fact required to analyze certain kinds of systems. And then we will see what are equilibrium points, in fact singular points, and all those kinds of, and what are the different types of singular points also. And then that it is given as a part A for understanding the whole of nonlinear systems. And then we will in part B we will go and see how to analyze these kinds of systems. Okay. So there are three methods through which we will try to understand or analyze these systems. One is the phase plane analysis, where it is restricted usually to second order systems because we get a more intuitive picture when it is in a second order system. Third order systems also are being done using phase plane analysis, where we have to project from the third dimension on to the plane. x1 x2 plane. Okay. And the second one, which is the Lyapunov stability criterion, is in fact a very strong theory in nonlinear control systems. But the problem with this difficulty with this theory is that it is the finding is in finding out the Lyapunov function v of x. So that is the limitation of this kind of theory. It is very difficult to find out v of x. Once v of x is known, understood, or found out, it is like a very powerful method in analyzing the stability of the systems. And then the last thing that we will see is the describing function method, which is in fact an extended version of the frequency response method that you had studied in the linear control theory, and which can it can be used for approximately analyzing the nonlinear control systems. Okay. Now we will just have a brief introduction to nonlinear systems, and we will see what are the unique characteristics of nonlinear systems. Okay. Now this like a nonlinear system. For example, I'll draw here a simple representation of the current and the current as well as the torque relationship of a motor. This is how we represent the torque versus current, and if we draw the speed versus current, what happens? This is the graph is not very could not be properly drawn. So this is how we draw the torque current and speed current relationship. So we can see that this is not a linear relationship here. Like it is proportional to Ia squared here if you consider the torque. But what we in sometimes when we try to make it as a linear system, we try to linearize a particular area of this curve. We'll try to draw a straight line here and say that we are operating only in this region, and let me consider this region to approximate is say that this region is approximately linear, and I can directly write as tau is equal to approximately equal to Ia in this region, because it is almost linear compared to this line. So this is the kind of approximations that we do in linear theory, and in the coming set of equations, we are not going to deal with these kinds of linearization. We will work with nonlinear systems, and so that is what we are going to see. And you also might know the major you also might have seen in your math courses that how to check whether a system is linear or not. What you used to do is superposition theorem. So we will start with the behavior of nonlinear system by discussing the superposition theorem in linear systems and nonlinear systems. Okay. So now we will go on to see what is the behavior of what are the behaviors or characteristics of nonlinear systems. Okay. So I have just pointed out the no important points here. So in the case of a linear system, if you consider a linear system, I will write it as linear LS here. Okay. For in the case of a linear system, if you are given an input R of t, and if for an input R of t, if the output is y of t, if R1, I'll write R1 of t and y1 of t, and if the input is R2 of t and the output is of y2 of t, then we know that if we give a scaled input to the system, if I multiply this with a factor a, that means the output also gets multiplied with the factor a. And if I multiply here it with the factor b, the output also gets multiplied with the factor b. So the scaling is possible in the case of, that means if we give a scaled input, it is obvious that I will get a scaled output. And if we individually know the outputs of these two inputs, I will it is easy for me to analyze if I have a system which is the sum of these two inputs. So if I have a system with this kind of given, if I give this kind of an input to a system, so I can directly find out the output of the system in the case of a linear system. So this makes our problem quite simpler. Like we need to study some standard inputs to the system, and then if we know those standard inputs, I can get the input, I can get the output of some other signal which is a combination of the standard inputs. So that's what that was why we used to study different the response of the system for different types of inputs, standard inputs. We studied the step input, the ramp input, the sinusoidal input, all these kinds of inputs we had studied, and any signal can be taken as the sum of these inputs. So that made our the problem in the case of linear system theory simpler. But in the case of nonlinear system, this is not possible, because this does not hold here. This does not hold here. Like we have to do some kind of a different analysis to do this. We cannot give a step input and see the response, give a ramp input, see the response. And if I have a system with sum of step and ramp input, I cannot just go and add those two outputs. So it does not work there. So we have to find some other means of analysis there. The next important point is the equilibrium point. In the case of linear systems, we can say that what is an equilibrium point? Equilibrium point is a point where all the change, that means there is the change in the state variables are equal to zero. For example, if the position is one state variable and velocity is another state variable, then dx by dt and dv by dt is equal to 0. That means the position at which these two variables goes to 0 are the equilibrium points of the system. So in fact, we know that x dot has the state variables x and v, can be written as a into x. So then dx by dt equal to 0 implies if a is not a singular metric, then I will get x as equal to 0. And usually in the case of linear systems, we get only one. We have a unique singular point, unique equilibrium point here. We will have a unique equilibrium point. There will be only one. Unique means there is only one equilibrium point for a linear system. But this is not the case for a nonlinear system. Okay, for example, I'll show you a problem here. Y double dot plus y dot k into y. I'll write here b into y dot plus k into y plus k1 into y plus k2 into y cubed equal to 0. If I have a system like this, I can write it as y. Okay, I can write the state equations as x1 is equal to y and x2 equal to y dot. So this implies x1 dot is equal to x2 and x2 dot is equal to x2 dot, this will be y double dot is equal minus b x2 dot minus k1 x1 minus k2 x1 cubed. Okay, so this is the equation for x1 dot and x2 dot. So if I want to find out the equilibrium point of this set of equations, what will be that? X2 is equal to 0. This I have to put it as 0. So what will be the condition? So I will put x1 dx by dt equal to 0. So I will get x2 equal to 0. And the second case, if I put dx2 by dt equal to 0, I will get this term as equal to 0. That means here I wrote it as x2 dot, that is wrong. Here this is not x2 dot. Okay, so this term will be 0 as x2 is equal to 0. So I will get it as minus k1 x1. I will get two equilibrium points. x2 dot will be equal to 0 when x2 is also equal to 0 and x1 is also equal to 0. So one equilibrium point is x1 equal to 0 and x2 equal to 0. That is one equilibrium point. The other equilibrium point occurs when this term together becomes equal to 0. That means k1 x1 plus k2 x1 cubed becomes equal to 0. So this becomes x1 and x1 squared becomes equal to, so I can write this as, so I will put it here, k1 equal to minus k2 x1 squared, right? K1 x2 plus minus k2 x1 squared. So this becomes equal to, this becomes k1 by k2 x1 squared. So this is minus, I am getting, so x1 will have square root of minus k1 by k2. Okay, this is in fact square root of minus k1 by k2 x1. So I get two equilibrium points, x2 equal to 0 and x1 equal to 0. And here also x2 equal to 0 and x1 equal to root k1 by k2. That means I am having here two equilibrium points. That means for nonlinear systems, we can have more than one equilibrium points. Okay. So that is the difference between a linear system. Whereas in the case of a linear system, it is very clear that we will have only one equilibrium point. And another important thing in the case of a linear system, the next point in the case of a linear and a nonlinear system is that in the case of a linear system, the linear system stability does not depend upon the initial conditions. We all know that if I give x dot is equal to a into x, we can directly say that the system stability depends upon the eigenvalues of a. Whatever initial condition we give to the system, we can speak about the stability of the system from the poles of the system. So the poles of the system, in fact, does not change depending upon the initial condition. So in the case of a linear system, the stability is independent of initial conditions. Dependent of initial conditions. Whereas in the case of a nonlinear system, what happens is that the stability is directly dependent upon the initial conditions. For example, if I consider a point here, if I start from, for example, for a system with a position, if I start from some position here for the system may go to 0, oscillate, and it may go to 0. Suppose if I start from some other position here, the chances are that the system may go to instability. So this is a case of a nonlinear system. We will see these kinds of systems in the coming lectures. Okay, so it depends upon the initial conditions. Where we start is very much important in the case of a nonlinear system. Okay, so the next point is the next point is we will in the case of nonlinear systems exhibit limit cycles. In fact, they are sustained oscillations of fixed frequency and amplitude. We will see what it is. For that, I will write down an equation here. Y y double dot plus b by m into y squared minus 1 into y dot plus k by m into y equal to 0. Suppose if I don't have this part in the equation, that means this is in fact the same equation as that of a mass spring damper system. Okay, so all of you know that equation, y double dot plus b by m into y dot plus k by m into y. This is of the form, it will be in the case the linear equivalent of this can be written as y double dot plus 2 zeta omega n into y dot plus omega n squared into y is equal to 0 is a linear equivalent of this equation. Like this linear equivalent can be compared with this linear equivalent of this equation, that there when this part is not there, okay, this part is equal to 1. So in that case, what happens is that this bottles down to this kind of an equation which we all know. Now, when we have this kind of an equation, we get different types of responses here, depending upon the value of that means when for case one we will see for case one for zeta case one for zeta equal to 0. Zeta equal to 0 means this part is not there. This part is not there. When that part is not there, I will get an oscillation like this. I'll get oscillations like this, undamped response. Okay, when now this part is greater than 1, right? When this part is positive, when this part is positive, that means it has a positive damping. Case 2 is positive damping. If I have case 2, positive damping, we know if it has a positive damping, what is the condition for the system? If it has a positive damping to the system, what happens? The damper removes energy from the system. That means the damper is trying to damp the oscillation. So it tries to damp the oscillation. So now I have a damping oscillation. So I get something which is the oscillations get damped when it is a positive damping. Now in the case of a negative damping here, negative damping, suppose this term is negative, so I have the case 3 of negative damping. Negative damping. Then what happens? This negative damping means what happens? The system is having a divergent tendency. Okay. Divergent tendency means this damper is trying to add energy to the system. It is negative. It is having a negative damping. So it is having a divergent tendency. So what happens is that system is going to oscillate and it goes to diverge. This is how it looks like. This is having a divergent tendency here. This is divergent. This is convergent. And here it is oscillatory. This is sustained oscillations. Okay, here we have sustained. This is the case of a linear system. That means what we have compared here is for these three. Okay, this is the case of a linear system when what we have compared here. Okay, now we will go and look at the nonlinear case here. This is y of t here, y of t here. Now I am going to compare this with the three cases which are going to match this. Okay, so when y equal to 1, this term gets cancelled here. This term gets cancelled here, and this equation becomes almost similar to this kind of an equation. This kind of an equation, case 1. That means this term is not there. We have only oscillations in the system. So we do have only sustained oscillations, trying to have sustained oscillations, but it won't be exactly like this. I will tell you why later. But anyway, I want to draw this oscillations in order to show something else. Okay, so this is okay. This is the sustained oscillations. I am drawing with the dotted lines here. Uh, this is a sustained oscillation. Sorry. Now we have let us consider the case for a positive damping. That means I want the system to have so this is 1 and this is minus 1. So when it is 1 exactly equal to 1, it will try to be equivalent. The response of the system will be matching this part. Okay, the undamped case. So it is trying to have an oscillation. But now omega, when y is greater than 1, what happens here when y is greater than 1? That means y is above here. When the initial condition is y is greater than 1 here, what happens? It is having a positive damping. That means it is trying to have a convergent output, convergent response, right? So if I am having y greater than 1, y is greater than 1, that means it is equivalent to a convergent system. It is trying to converge here. Now when y is less than 1, what happens? Y is less than 1, this part becomes negative. So this implies I have a negative damping here. So it tries to diverge here. Diverge here. Here I have a positive damping here. So let us see what happens for the system. So we know when y becomes greater than 1, the system response tries to converge. And when y is less than 1, the system will have a negative damping, so that the system response is trying to diverge. Okay, so what happens here is y is greater than, I'll start with y greater than 1, so it is trying to diverge means it wants to reduce the oscillations. Okay, it starts from here, even though the amplitude is more, it tries to reduce the oscillations and come to zero. It is going to try to come to zero. But what happens is there in this case is it comes to reduce the oscillations. When it comes inside this one, what happens here? The y is again less than 1. What happens here? It is having a diverging tendency. So due to this inertia, it will again go down, and then it has to, since it is having a divergent tendency, it comes down. But when it comes above 1, what happens? It goes to diverging tendency. Then again it goes inside this curve. It cannot go to converge, it has to diverge. So it will try to diverge, but when it comes out of 1, it wants to converge, again comes inside. So it goes on like this. Finally it will try to, okay, I came out too fast. So finally what happens is that it tries to come like this, and then tries to follow this curve, and slowly it will try to follow this curve, and then finally it will match and come back to sustained oscillation. Okay, so this is what is happening if the initial condition was y equal to 1. Now, if I have an initial condition y less than 1, the same thing happens here. Here it is initially here, it tries to diverge initially, it goes out, it doesn't want to diverge, it comes down, and it wants to reduce. When it comes inside this one, it wants to diverge, so it again comes out, comes in, slowly tries to converge, and then follow this path. Okay, this is what is happening here. Okay, so this is called, that means the oscillation wherever we start. Finally, for certain kinds of systems, we can see that it can have limit cycles. That means finally, the when we start from a point inside the limit cycle, it will converge to the limit cycle. This is the sustained value is called the, at that point it is called the limit cycle. It will try to converge to the sustained oscillation. If it is outside that limit cycle, again also it will try to attain the limit cycle. So this is called a, this happens in the case of nonlinear systems. Though we do have nonlinear oscillatory conditions in the case of nonlinear systems, it is different for different conditions. For positive damping, it directly converges. For negative damping, it diverges. So here, the conditions are dependent upon the like amplitude here. So changing depending upon the amplitude, it can go to the limit cycles. Okay. So this condition is only in the case of nonlinear systems. Limit cycles are found in the case of nonlinear systems. It is in fact sustained oscillations of fixed frequency and amplitude. Okay. Now we will go to the next part. One is the other property that we see in nonlinear systems is jump resonance. This equation, I think you might be knowing up to this equation, mx double dot plus bx dot plus k into x equal to f cos omega t. Now we are having, we have added two more terms here, k1 into x plus k2 into x cubed. So if k2 equal to 0, we know the equation which is equivalent to that of a normal mass spin damper system, right? When k2 equal to 0, we know the equation, right? K2 equal to 0, what is the equation? So it is m, I'll write it in terms of x double dot plus b by m into x dot plus k1 by m into x equal to f by m cos omega t. Okay, this is the equation when k2 equal to 0. So now when K2, we can have different conditions here when K2 is greater than 0 and also when K2 is less than 0. So when K2 is greater than 0, it is usually called as a hard spring. Okay. And when K2 is less than 0, it is usually called as a soft spring. And when K2 equal to 0, it is in fact called as a linear spring. That means the spring is linear. Okay. So now we will try to plot the magnitude, the frequency response of the system. That means we will see the frequency response of the system as omega varies from 0. Okay. So for K2 equal to 0, we know this kind of a response here. We know that it is something like this. Something like this. Okay, this doesn't look good. So I will start from here. Okay, this looks better. So here this value is in fact equal to root k by m. So this in this case it will be k1 by m, root k by k1 by m. For this is for a linear case. This can be drawn for a linear case. Now when we try it for a non-linear case, first we will try for k2 greater than 0. So it is quite interesting in the case of a nonlinear spring. What happens is that when we try to increase the frequency, it starts. Let us start from this point A. When we try to increase the frequency, it directly goes. It goes to a point B. It's not a straight line. It somehow came out as a straight line. It goes to point B. Then it tries to bend towards the magnitude, tries to bend towards a high frequency side and this point C. Once it reaches point C, what happens is that when we go and try to increase the frequency, it suddenly there is a jump. There is a jump from C to some other point D. There is a discontinuous jump from C to D. And then once it reaches C, D, then it again changes. The magnitude, in fact, decreases like this. This part is being followed. But here, what happens? It tries to curve towards a high frequency region. But once it reaches this point, there is a discontinuous jump as we go on increasing the frequency. So if you plot this, we can find this kind of a relation in the case of a nonlinear system. This is in fact called a jump resonance. Okay, so there is a jump here, and in the case of almost in all linear systems, what happens is that when we change the frequency from 0 to infinity, if we get a curve like this, and if we try to reduce the frequency from this point and then go back to 0, we will definitely follow the same path. This is not the case of nonlinear systems. It will not follow the same path. Now, if we try to reduce the frequency, what happens? Let us try to reduce the frequency omega here and see what will be the response of the system, frequency response of the system. This is a magnitude of x. So we can see when we try to reduce the frequency from omega, we'll go from this direction. What happens? It starts from this point. Let us start from this point. It goes back for some time through this curve, but when it reaches this point D, it does not want to go to D because there was a discontinuous jump here. Okay, so it will not follow that point D. What it does is it takes another path. So it takes another path like this, and when it reaches this point, because it has to follow somewhere here, which is almost similar to that of a linear path, and then here there will be a discontinuous jump, and let me call this as point C dash, and then it goes to this point and then returns like this. So here also there is a discontinuous jump when I try to reduce the frequency and move from this point to this point. It comes to C, jumps to C. Once it comes to C dash, it jumps from C dash to B dash. That means it has two values for a same frequency here. So it jumps to B dash. This is in fact called a discontinuous jump. Okay, this phenomena is usually peculiar for nonlinear systems. Okay, and this is called jump resonance. It comes back to 0. And I can in fact we can in fact draw this curve like something like this, which to get a feel of the curve, it is something like this. It is something of this sort. Okay, and the curve doesn't look the way I wanted it, because yeah, this is something like this. Okay, okay, so it is curving towards the higher frequency side. Okay. Now, in the case of K2 less than 0, it will be in the just the mirror of this in the opposite direction. So here it will be, what happens is that initially what happens when we try to increase the frequency, it goes from some point here to here, from A to B, it goes somewhere to the C, and then it goes to a jump here to some point D here, and then from D it tries to reduce like this, and it reaches E. Okay, this is point C here. When we try to increase the frequency, it jumps from C to D and then reduces like this. When we reverse the frequency, what happens is here the curving is towards a lower frequency region for K2 less than 0. So that is how we distinguish whether it is a hard spring or a soft spring. So when we try to reduce the frequency, what happens? The curve will be towards this point. Actually, this B had to be somewhere here so that I can draw it a little more clearly here, so that I can jump from this point. So when I reach somewhere here, this is some C dash. When I return, I will be jumping from this point to this point. It is not. It is a straight jump. I will have to jump from C to B dash, and then it reaches here. So there is a jump here. There is a jump upwards. Here there is a jump downwards when there is a increase in frequency, and a jump upwards when there is a decrease in the frequency. That is the difference here. Okay, so here we have a connection. We can draw a connection also here with this. Okay, so this is how it looks like. It looks like this curved towards a higher frequency. This is curved towards a lower frequency. Yes. This is a peculiarity of a nonlinear system, and this is called jump resonance. Okay, now the next important point, characteristics of a nonlinear system, is the dependency of the amplitude and frequency. So if you look at this equation, this part, so if I try to write down this equation, so m x double dot plus bx dot plus k1 into x plus k2 into x cubed is equal to f cos omega t. So now for a linear spring, what happens? This part is not there. Okay, linear spring, what will be the frequency of oscillation? It will be k1 by m. Whatever the value of x, for a linear spring, this part will not be there. So the frequency of oscillation will be constant for a linear spring. So the frequency of oscillations will be a constant. So what does I will write frequency of oscillation as omega n. Okay, the frequency of oscillation will be a constant for a linear spring. So this is K2 equal to 0. When K2 equal to 0, we have a linear spring. Here it will be always K1 by m. It is a constant here. There is no change in, this is the change in magnitude of x. Whatever value of x we have. Okay, so we do whatever value of x we have. When we try to decrease the value of x also, this frequency of oscillation does not change. Okay, it is independent of the amplitude and frequency of oscillation. Okay, amplitude and frequency. Okay, now next thing is when we change the amplitude. For let us consider for K2 greater than 0. When K2 is greater than 0, what happens here? X cubed, and when I try to reduce the frequency, when I try to reduce the amplitude, what happens to the frequency of oscillations here? This term gives the frequency of oscillation. This term gives us an information of omega n for the system. Okay, so what happens for as uh, amplitude decreases, we can see that the frequency of oscillations also decreases. So it comes like this for K2 greater than 0. So K2 greater than 0, initially omega n will be greater for K2. When K2 is greater than 0, this will impart a higher omega n to the system, higher oscillation to the system. But when x cubed value decreases, what happens? This term decreases, and then slowly when this term decreases and goes to 0, it slowly approaches root k1 by m. So as K2, for K2 greater than 0, as the value of x decreases, it slowly approaches root k by m. Now for K2 greater than less than 0, for K2 less than 0, what happens is that since the total frequency of oscillations here is decreasing, it becomes k1 by k1 into x minus k2 into x cubed, right? So since k2 is less than 0, it will be negative of some value. So the frequency of oscillations definitely will be lesser compared to the frequency of oscillation when k2 equal to 0. So initially for higher, when x cube is a very high value, the value of omega n, frequency of oscillations, will be less, right? So slowly as this term becomes insignificant, this goes to 0. When x cubed is lesser, this goes to 0 and it approaches k1. So it is something like this for k2 less than 0. So this graph is something which says us that there is a dependency between the amplitude and the frequency of oscillations of the system. Okay, so that means x, the value of x has a dependency on omega n. But for a linear case, this is not the case. Whatever the value of x, it does not depend upon. For a linear case, I have m x double dot plus b into x dot plus k into x equal to f cos omega t. Whatever the value of x, the frequency of oscillation will be omega n will be root k by m. So it will be a constant. But here there is a dependency on x on the frequency of oscillation. This is peculiar for nonlinear system because we have a nonlinear term here. So now I will try to summarize all these things. In the case of nonlinear, all these things I have gone through. In the case of nonlinear systems, we can say that a nonlinear system is more realistic. We can add more information to the system. Okay. But in the case of linear system, it is in fact an approximation to nonlinear systems. Okay. Then it has multiple equilibrium points, only one equilibrium point. The stability depends upon the initial condition. Here, stability does not depend upon the initial condition. Whatever the initial conditions, in the case of a linear system, the stability remains the same. Okay. We can see we can observe limit cycles in the case of nonlinear systems, whereas we do not observe that in the case of linear systems. Jump resonance, we can speak about jump resonance in the case of nonlinear system. Frequency and amplitude are dependent here because in the case there is they both are independent here. And another important aspect of nonlinear and linear systems is that most of the tools in the linear systems are well developed, and that is why we try to approximate the nonlinear systems and do the analysis as well as controller designs in the linear by approximating it and do it in the linear system. Okay, convert it into linear system and do all the analysis there. But now lot of research is going on in the case of nonlinear theory, and now it is high time that we learn more about nonlinear systems. So that is why this portion has been included in your syllabus also. So this today's lecture, I think I have tried to give a glimpse of the characteristics of the different specular characteristics of nonlinear systems. That means what all things are there in the case of a nonlinear systems. What all do we observe in the case of nonlinear systems? Okay. So in the next class, we will see what are the different types of nonlinearities that we are going to deal with. So we will discuss some important types of nonlinearities that we usually see or we usually handle, and we will use that for a lot of analysis in the coming lectures also. Okay, thank you.